evening.
Thank you for having me.
I attended one of your sessions. I think that was the second time we met. So we've met through a few facilitation things, but mostly it was through LinkedIn, through a contact. And I always love those connections. You know, you just see somebody on LinkedIn you really connect with, and here we are today doing this live. So I'm really, really excited about it. You're an author, certified mindfulness teacher, and a coach, amongst many other things. And I really, really want to hear a bit about that story. What got you to here, really? So my big question, my favorite question, what's your story, Christoph? Tell us your story.
Well, I think that the titles and the credits are always a good, starting point, because I'm just, like all of us, I'm just a human being trying to figure out why we're here and how we can make the most of the journey. And labels and titles, and they can be helpful and they serve a purpose, but they can be equally confusing at the same time. And I find that probably every 5 years, I kind of rebrand. And then I'm a coach, and then I'm a mindfulness teacher, and then I'm an author, and actually you're just a combination of all of these things. But yeah, the long story short is that I was born and raised in Belgium, and I was airline cabin crew for the Belgian National Airline Sabina.
Love that.
Did you not know that?
I don't think I did.
You have not read my 20 million books. No. And that was one of the first times I was kind of faced with significant adversity, because after 9/11, our airline went bankrupt, and there was about 10,000 of us who were out of work. And at that time, I was a uni dropout, although I've changed that story. Uni was not for me at the time, because now I am at university. But so I was out of a job, and cabin crew was what I loved doing, and traveling the world, meeting all these people from different cultures and all of that stuff. So I joined Japan Airlines, based out of Heathrow, and I ended up staying in the UK. I carried on flying for 2 more years after that, and then I became a soft skills trainer for Emirates here in Manchester. So customer service training, leadership development eventually, and then moved into the learning and development department and career permanently, until about 5 years ago, when I went self-employed. And initially it was soft skills training, but I always knew that practical spirituality, and I know this word scares a lot of people, but it's nothing religious.
We're going to dig into that.
Absolutely, it's nothing religious. It's kind of the, what's the point? What is my purpose in life? Those kind of deeper conversations. Actually, the conversations people tend to have with you when they've maybe had a glass of wine, or actually when they've had 2 glasses of wine. And so I really always felt that there was a need for people to have those kind of conversations, beyond the clean corporate daily job kind of thing, paradigm. And I decided to honor that call and explore it, and I became a more spiritual life coach. And mindfulness has always been there. It's always been a part of my life, but it came back onto my path about 2.5 to 3 years ago, when I had a period of burnout and more pronounced anxiety than usual. I mean, because we all have anxiety and it serves a purpose, and we have moments of anxiety, but it was more like, I need to do something here. And so either I revisited mindfulness, or mindfulness came back onto my path. I don't quite remember what happened. That doesn't matter. But and that was the big catalyst to exploring this beautiful and very useful concept that is mindfulness in more detail. And that's the long story short. I'm sure there's a lot more.
Yes. Absolutely. I imagine there is. And, you know, I think sort of why I wanted to delve into this subject is, you know, mindfulness has been a mind-blowing practice for me. It really has. You know, I can't attribute mindfulness to, you know, solving all of my problems, but I've certainly gone through, you know, I lost my mum in my mid-20s, and I went through a 2-year phase of, you know, being in a bit of a weird bubble of grief, and I was dealing with control issues because, you know, I couldn't control my personal life. There were lots of changes happening in my professional life with the company restructure and lots of things happening, redundancies and stuff, and I sort of slipped into this out of control sort of whirlwind of exhaustion, burnout. And I, you know, that was a really sort of struggle and a period of my life that was sort of consumed with this need for control. And I feel like when I found mindfulness, it was somehow a calming process, a process of feeling like I didn't have to control everything out in the outside world, and actually I could regulate something inside. And I'm sure that there's a better explanation for what that thing was and what it's actually done. Or does that relate to anything that you've discovered about mindfulness? Is this connecting to anything that you know about?
100%. And thank you for sharing your background. I think relating to the situations and relating to yourself differently and self-regulation is what mindfulness is all about. You know, metaphors are cliche, but I'm going to use one anyway. For me, it was like this aspirin dropping into my world, my life, and bringing clarity and relief. And in the same way, I'm just going with the words that come to me in this moment. I think in the same way that an aspirin can taste quite bitter, it's not like it's a nice drink, is it? Mindfulness is not always easy, and it takes effort and it takes commitment, but it is helpful.
Yeah, I can really relate to that sometimes. And we're going to dig into what mindfulness is, what the practice is, what it's not, which I think is more important, because I think that there's some misconceptions about what it is. But I definitely, sometimes I sit there and I'm like itching to move, and my legs are like agitated, and I'm like, and I think that part of the process is sitting with that discomfort. And I try to sort of work out, okay, why do I want to escape myself so much? Like, what is that discomfort? And I think that's all part of the process. So for a very sorry, Christoph.
No, it's very true. And it's I mean, I think often people believe that mindfulness is all about calm and relaxation and peacefulness. And I mean, I have my own mindfulness groups, and it's actually branded Calm with Christoph. So I mean, it's nice to package it that way, but that's not really what that's a byproduct of mindfulness. And the calm and the relaxation can be a byproduct of it, and it's nice. Of course it's nice, and it's very welcome, especially in these times. But it's not the point of mindfulness. The point of mindfulness, and I'm going to put it quite bluntly, is to, because you hinted at it just now, it's about being with the discomfort of life.
Yes.
And who said that was going to be easy or comfortable? But if you learn how to do it during practice, you can then copy paste that into your everyday life. When you are on public transport and you hate being on public transport and you're prone to having a panic attack on public transport, for example, or confined spaces or whatever, or a business meeting, or you know, whatever the situation might be, you don't need relaxation in that moment. You need something that you've learned how to cultivate for yourself, some kind of like a strengthening of a muscle, so to speak, which you can then call upon in that moment of distress, you know, or being uncomfortable.
I think that's so important, Christoph, because I think often, my coachees come to me and they're like, I just want to feel at ease with uncertainty, and I don't want to feel uncomfortable, and I want to feel confident, and I don't want to deal with stress, or I don't want to deal with these things, these uncomfortable emotions. I just want to get rid of them. And as humans, that's impossible, right? Even in pursuit of that, you're just going to cause yourself to sort of spiral.
Exactly.
Because that's impossible.
Yeah.
So from what you said, I'm getting that mindfulness gives you almost like a strategy for dealing with that discomfort, for sitting with that discomfort, being at ease with that discomfort, because you can't eradicate it. You can't get rid of it.
Exactly. And originally, I mean, and I don't want to bring religion into this, but by way of background, it might be helpful to the listeners or viewers. It can be practiced entirely, in an entirely secular way, but there are very rich connections to Buddhism, and mindfulness is most clearly articulated in Buddhism of all the wisdom traditions. And originally it was the Buddha's kind of guidance for people on how to deal with suffering.
Yes.
So it was never taught as a relaxation technique per se, and I think it's important to remember that. But it can be, like I said, you can kind of embrace mindfulness and explore it without making any connections to any kind of philosophies or religions. But it's there are beautiful connections to Buddhism.
Yeah. And I think it's probably a good idea to sort of let's explore what mindfulness actually is. What is being mindful? Because I think there are a lot of I think that people imagine that you've got to sort of clear your head completely. You've got to sit there quietly, and that you're going to have this awakening process that happens. And actually being mindful is something that we can do in the moment at any point, right? Let's get a bit practical. What is being mindful and mindfulness?
Okay, so this is the $1 million question, and there are really many approaches to this. It's often said that mindfulness is a multifaceted diamond, so I'm going to use my own words, and I always start with, it's a way of creating a gentle breathing space between you and your thoughts. That's what happens. It's a bit of a breathing space between you and your thoughts, because what goes up here in the brain is it never stops. It's ongoing. The autopilot of the brain. It's constantly coming up with stuff, and very often it's based in the past, or it's worrying about the future, but very rarely are we in the now. In fact, I believe it's 47% of the time we are distracted. We are not focused in the now. So what mindfulness does is it offers you an invitation to be in the moment with a kind attitude, and with non-judgment to what's happening, to what's unfolding. And that doesn't mean that you have to agree with what's happening. That doesn't mean it's pleasant or lovable even, but it means that you can make space for what is, as it is, without judgment. Go on.
I was going to say, I think for me, relating to that is, not being in conflict with what's happening. Because when I'm so if I'm in a situation that is uncomfortable, like you used the example of being on the tube, and I really don't like being on the tube, me getting angry and frustrated about the fact that I don't want to be on the tube is almost like this, like it's reinforcing this negative cycle and then that's making me angry and angrier. And I feel like when I can be mindful in those moments, is sort of taken away that internal conflict that I'm constantly feeling. And it's sort of taking away that layer. There's almost like this acceptance sort of piece, but not acceptance as in I'm giving up, but there's sort of this process of accepting what is.
Absolutely. Mindfulness is a very active process. It's not about being complacent or passivity. It's a very active thing, and it takes a lot of, initially it takes a lot of effort. But if you indulge me for a moment, Jay, I would like to use the tube example, and then the audience can link, come up with their own examples. If we have the 3-circle model, so for example, you have the inner circle and then the second circle and the third circle. So the inner circle is I'm on the tube and I'm experiencing the noise of the train carriage moving. I can hear the people, there's the buzz, there's all of the direct experiences. And then the second layer is where we begin to slightly overthink, like, oh, it's a bit busy here, it's a bit too busy for my liking, and it's like, your mind is no longer with what's actually happening for you in the moment. It's already kind of, coming up with extra stuff. And then the third layer is, last time I was on the tube, this happened. And so you bring that in as well. And actually, it's not just on the tube that I feel anxious. It also happened to me. I had a panic attack at the airport terminal last year on the way to Lanzarote. Boom, you bring that into your story as well. And before you know it, you actually create this energy ball that you find yourself like caught in. And it begins, it becomes all a bit too much.
Yeah. I think I like the story, the creation of the story that we create, because we're either like stuck in the past or we're worrying about the future. So I had a recent example where, and I kind of wanted to talk a bit about stimulus and response as part of this example, right? So for the benefit of our listeners, so generally there's a stimulus, right? There's something that happens, somebody gets angry with you or somebody says something, that's the stimulus. And then there's a reaction, right? There's either a reaction or a response. So your reaction could be getting defensive and you lash out, right? And when the smaller the space between that stimulus and reaction, the more likely you're going to react in a way that is automatic. And later you might think, oh gosh, I sort of reacted. I just sort of reacted in that situation immediately and didn't really think about my response. Mindfulness for me sort of creates that gap between the stimulus and allows me to respond in the way that I want to, or allows me to reflect on my reaction. So let me give a practical example of this. The other day, me and my husband he was helping me out on the computer doing some stuff. And, I was a bit stressed and I was a bit busy. And he pointed out something that I did wrong. Like, I can't remember what it was, but he pointed out something that I did wrong. And I instantly lashed out at him. And I was just like, that's not the point of what we're doing here. I've asked you to help me to do this. And I lashed out. So there was the stimulus. He said something that I did wrong. And there was a reaction. And there was very little conscious thought in between that. But when I reflected on that moment afterwards, I realized that had triggered, a memory from my past or a feeling from my past, getting something wrong as a child, feeling embarrassed, feeling ashamed that I'd got this wrong. And so I instantly lashed out at him because he'd embarrassed me, because instantly I was like, oh, I've done something wrong. That's really embarrassing. And I reacted, I lashed out as a way of dealing with that, because I didn't want to deal with the shame and embarrassment. But only through a process of sort of being mindful, allowing myself, ideally, right? I want to be mindful in the middle of that. I want to recognize that emotion, and hopefully next time I will. But this is what mindfulness is doing for me. It's giving me quicker and quicker reflexes to stop in that moment and go, actually, this wasn't about him pointing that out. This was about me and feeling like I'm not smart enough and that I got something wrong. This is stuff, this is baggage, not what he did. And now I've lashed out on my husband, and now, you know, I did explain that to him. We had a good conversation about it. But I feel like that is a really, really sort of, that's the benefit of mindfulness for me, is that sort of being able to reflect on that defensive behavior, and even hopefully sometimes be able to stop it in the moment and go, oh, what is this really about?
And then to also not judge yourself for having a reaction, because initially you're going to have them. And then with mindfulness practice, yes, you increase that space between stimulus and reaction. So the reaction becomes a response instead. But there's a bit in the middle that is not often talked about. And that's the kindness and the self-compassion that's required to get you, you know, from reacting to responding, and to increase that space. Because if one, I'm not talking about you, Jay, in particular, but if one beats, you know, themselves up on being too reactive, then that's the opposite of mindfulness. One of the key foundational attitudes of mindfulness is non-judgment, and that includes non-judgment towards yourself. Yeah, it's so important. And reaction has a place, and I don't mean to undo what you've just talked about, because you've hit on the essence of mindfulness. But if the fire alarm goes off and the building is on fire, you need to react. You need to get out of the room, get out of the building. But even in those moments, 1 or 2 seconds thinking which is the best exit to take can actually be very helpful. So it's kind of a combination between reacting and responding. But, you know, reacting has a place. Anything that goes on with racism, homophobia, all of those kind of things, reacting has a place. Some things, you know, it's warranted. You can't sit there for 10 hours coming up with the right response. No, sometimes you need to give a reaction. So let's be clear about that. But in terms of increasing your empathic capacity, in terms of even towards yourself, in terms of self-regulation, in terms of just taking it a little bit more slowly in life. Yes, that space between the stimulus and the reaction, so that it can become a response instead, is priceless. And that space can be cultivated. So I suppose that's the next big question. How do you do it? And the great news is that you do not have to become a Buddhist monk. You don't have to burn incense. You don't have to follow all of the cliches, although they can be very nice. But generally speaking, there are 2 big avenues. There's informal mindfulness and there's formal mindfulness. And let's start with the formal mindfulness first. Those are your meditation practices, such as a body scan or a sitting meditation, mountain meditation, lake meditation, you know, more kind of set, not scripts, but there are certain kind of guidelines for those practices. And they can include mindful walking, for example. And that's not really about mindful dog walking or anything like that. It's actually, you can practice mindful walking in your bedroom, and God knows I have done in lockdown. And it's about slowing down to, you know, to the level of noticing how one foot lifts off the floor, and then the other follows with that. And then you're like, oh my God, that next foot follows. And actually, I was never actually aware of that, because you just walk during the day. You walk, right? And so many things are happening, and we are completely unaware of those things. With mindful walking, you shine a spotlight on, or actually the body shines a spotlight on what it is doing, and it makes you aware of what it's doing.
I wonder if, I was just going to say, because when I started to bring, can you be mindful when running? Because when I started being mindful about like when I was running, what my body was doing, and you know, honing in on, you know, my core and what my arms were doing, what my body's doing. Am I still being mindful in that moment, because sometimes my head just floats away, but sometimes I go in and really think about what's happening in my body.
So I'm a runner, and yes, I believe in running mindfully.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's the difference between running and you have that beautiful kind of blissful escapism, you know, you're somewhere else completely, right? Which is,
Yeah.
I'm sure, a reason why many people do run. But then mindful running is actually completely the opposite. It's about bringing your attention back to the running,
Yeah.
and kind of noticing the potholes in the road and whatever it is, whatever the terrain might be, and being more, not changing the way you're running, but just being more with the direct experience of your feet touching the mud, the ground, you're, you know, scratching branches of a tree, whatever it is, the rain on your face, that kind of stuff. And then noticing how soon your attention drifts off again, the mind wanders off. Can you bring it back? But then without saying, oh gosh, I'm such an idiot, I can't sustain my attention for more than 5 seconds. Good. That means you're not a robot, you're a human being. So non-judgmentally, like, okay, mind, I can see why you went back to the meeting today, because it was a very uncomfortable meeting and you were hurt or you were upset or whatever. So but right now we're not at that meeting, we're running. So back to the now moment. You know?
Mm-hmm.
So yes, to answer your question, I believe that it's absolutely possible. And then that's actually a nice kind of transition to the other avenue of practicing mindfulness, which is informal mindfulness.
Mm-hmm.
And that's about infusing mindfulness into your everyday life, doing the dishes in mindfulness, taking a shower in mindfulness, running, all of that kind of thing.
And in doing so, Christoph, what will it practically do for us? So, like, if I take moments of 2 minutes, moments of just coming back in and being present with myself, or doing mindful, you know, being mindful when I'm washing up, or, you know, being a bit mindful when I walk, what am I gonna, what's the difference that I'm gonna experience?
You give your system a break.
Yeah.
And when I say the system, it's the brain, the whole of the nervous system. The brain is, of course, a part of that. And you do, because, for example, let's keep it very simple. You're doing the dishes. How often? I mean, I certainly know I do the dishes very often, thinking about tomorrow's meetings, whatever, client work, whatever. And it's like, I've just done these dishes completely on autopilot.
Yes.
And my mind was busy. But when you do the dishes in mindfulness, you can actually focus on the texture of the washing up liquid, the smell of the liquid, whatever it is, as long as it's related to doing the dishes.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, the brain is not activating, for example, the default mode network, where we spend the other 50% of the time. Therefore, it is not getting aggravated. Therefore, it is not producing stress hormones. Therefore, it is not affecting the rest of your body. Therefore, your body is not doing the tapping, the clicking, the biting on your lips, or whatever it might be. And you give your system a break.
Yeah.
Because you pause brain activity, so to speak. And this is extremely basic explanation, of course. But that's what it's about. And that's what mindfulness does. It brings back your awareness to your focus to the now moment. And you just focus on the direct experience of whatever is unfolding without judgment. And it's one of the hardest things to learn, but it's possible, but it's not easy.
I think my journey to mindfulness and being present started, I think like many people, with The Power of Now, which is still, you know, a book that I reread. But, you know, reading that book and then beginning my mindfulness journey, I explained it to my boyfriend, who's very, very skeptical of all this stuff. He was like, what are you doing now? But it was like I'd woken up. That's the only way I could explain it to him. It's like before I was living life and I was happy and we were happy and I was enjoying things, but now I feel like I've woken up. When you talk to me and I practice mindfully listening and being present when we're talking, it's like I'm getting other signals. I'm getting so much more from that exchange. Or if I go for a walk and I really focus on being mindful about like the movement, and this is going to sound a bit wanky for all those that are a bit skeptical, but honestly,
Good, bring it on.
focusing on like seeing the trees move and the leaves move, I was just like, it's a totally different experience. And I've missed all, this is what I shouldn't feel like, but the thought of having missed all of those opportunities to really, really experience what's going on. I think that's what mindfulness for me is. It's really experiencing what is happening in this moment of time. Is really been powerful for me, I think.
100%. And it's tricky in that, for example, right now you are, because I think you're doing an amazing job, because you're hosting this, you're facilitating this podcast, this conversation. And so you ask a question, I answer that question. There's a very good chance that you're already thinking about the next question to ask. As I am listening to your question, I'm thinking about the answer that I'm going to give. And it's like, oh my God, it's like, slow down, even if it means you have to take a few seconds to think about your answer, go with that rather than rehearsing the answer, therefore missing half the question and anything else that's being said. And this is what happens in conversations at the pub, during meetings in the office, and because it's like, me next, I'm next, no, just slow down. But silence scares people a great deal, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
And yet it's where there is so much richness in silence. And it often takes a conversation in a direction where that conversation ought to be going anyway, But yeah, it's scary.
It is scary. And I think I absolutely fall into this a lot, that sort of listening to reply and not listening to truly hear what that person is saying, really listening with the intent of purely trying to understand what that person is saying. What we tend to fall into is listening in order to be able to have a reply to what's being said. And I think, this is something me and my husband are practicing daily. Communication is really important to me. It's become very important to him. And it is something that we try to be okay in those silences, that those pauses are okay, that we don't have to have an instant answer. But it is far more powerful. It's, we're able, we feel it, we feel the difference.
So now I have to pause for a few moments. No, I'm joking. But I think, and I don't know if there's enough time to talk about this, but perhaps briefly, it links quite beautifully, I think, to the whole doing versus being. And is it okay to briefly talk about this?
Yes, absolutely.
So
and then we've got some comments that we'll go to afterwards, Christoph.
Doing is the doing mode, because it gets a bad rap. It's about, because of course we want to be ambitious and we want to be goal driven and we want to make, we want to be active and we want to make some effort and all of that. But it's the driven doing mode where it goes wrong, where we are just striving for the sake of striving, often driven by avoidance and, that kind of slippery slope. And when we're in the driven doing mode, we want the situation to be different. We need to have some kind of control over the situation, and we don't usually like ourselves a great deal in those moments. Whereas when we can shift to into the being mode, we can allow the situation to be as it is without needing to change the moment. And with that comes this tremendous kind of return to appreciating yourself and like, hey, I'm a part of this conversation, I'm a part of this moment, and I can just be with it. And again, like with anything mindfulness, it's possible and it's simple, but it's not easy, and it takes a bit of practice. But it's life changing. And when it comes to anxiety, it's not only essential, it's useful, you know. Because if you're on a tube, for example, and you are throwing log after log onto the anxiety fire, because it comes from us. Yes, there's stimuli all around us, but it's how we react to the stimuli, right? So we're in doing mode because we want that situation to be different. Well, it's not going to be different. You're on a tube, it's busy. Yeah, that's it. But when you allow yourself to shift into being mode, you can become more okay with that situation. It's like, no, what if I just allowed myself to be a part of this picture? I'm a passenger on this train. I'm a passenger on this train, and I'm a valuable person on this train, you know, a human being. So the self-love comes in, and the self-respect comes in. And when all of these things kind of happen, relaxation is enabled through the activation of the parasympathetic branch of the nervous system. So it's wonderful how it happens. I was going to say how it works, but it's not about working. It's about allowing it to just be. And it's very much an experiential thing. They say you can't intellectualize mindfulness, and I kind of agree with that. Yes, the knowledge and the neuroscientific knowledge is very useful, because when you have a panic attack, you can kind of think, okay, this is happening up there. That's why the rest of the body is responding in the way that it does. But it has to be practiced. It has to be experienced, and you know, it doesn't take long. 10 minutes a day is enough for a minimum of 8 weeks for you to begin to experience the benefits of mindfulness. So, yeah.
And I think, Christoph, you know, from what you just said, the rate of change in the world, especially in the working world, is only going to increase, right? We're surrounded by distractions. Uncertainty is inevitable. The working world is becoming more complex, and it's chaos sometimes, and we need to find, I think for me, it comes back to that control. Instead of trying to control the chaos that's happening around us, which we can't sometimes, this is about that process of finding that inner calm, finding that space within the external environment where you can find that take that breath, have that calm. And I think that's an important part of
Absolutely.
it, that we're only going to see more change and more complex structures, but how can we navigate in that environment? And this is one of the ways. I think it's a powerful way of doing that.
Beautifully put.
Thank you. I'm going to go to some comments, because there's a few people sharing. So Louise, thank you, Louise. I'm starting to practice mindfulness, mostly when I run, but also to try and help me stop my brain before I sleep. Gosh, yes. Yeah. Brilliant.
So yeah, great. I mean, well done for trying. And sleep is something it's worth talking about for a moment, because I used to be a bad sleeper, and since taking mindfulness seriously, I usually sleep through the night, and even if some anxious thoughts do wake me up or keep me up the day before a keynote or before a big event, I mean, we're human beings, we're not robots, right? These things are affecting us. Sometimes it's just excitement, because excitement and fear feel very similar to the system. So sometimes you're like, which one is it? But without meaning to sound patronizing, thoughts really at the end of the day are mental events. It's brain activity. And in the middle of the night, when something is keeping you up, there's a very good chance that you can say to yourself, this is not happening right now. This is happening just as a mental event in my mind. And that allows you to just detach a little bit from that and reperceive it, because mindfulness is all about reperceiving. It's metacognition. And then usually before long, you're under again. But it's knowing how to detach. And just, to be devil's advocate for a second, because thoughts are not facts, and thoughts are not things, and all of that. That's kind of like chapter 1 of any mindfulness course. And I'm always on the barricades. It's like, if my brother lives in California, with the big bushfires they had a few months ago.
Gosh, yeah.
He was 5 kilometers away from his house being burned down to the ground. You can't say to someone like that, thoughts are not facts. It was a fact.
Yes.
So be gentle with yourself when you go down that thoughts are not fact kind of pathway, because sometimes things are very real and very significant. But I'm talking more generally, waking up in the middle of the night, you have a keynote tomorrow. Well, it's tomorrow. It's not now. It's not now. The brain is overactive. I can bring some compassion, some kindness to that situation, and then you detach. So yeah, I shouldn't have said that, but I always like to approach things from a very pragmatic and honest angle, because otherwise it becomes the fluffiness that people dread.
Yeah, and I think there's a realism to the situation. Like, okay, this has happened. So like a prime example. I lost my mum in my mid-20s. Those emotions were real. Those thought processes, they're there, but I had to go through that process of sort of not detaching from it as such, but sort of, I don't even know, learning that process of processing it, learning that process of sitting with it and being okay with the grief and the thoughts, whatever that was. And I think that's what mindfulness gave me in that moment. So we've got another one. We've got Pooja. Sandia has been trying to convert me for a while, finally getting there, but it takes a while to find a mindful practice that works for you. Yeah. Because there's so many ways, right, Christoph? There's so many teachers and different sort of styles. I do feel like you have to explore a bit.
Sorry, I'm reading the question. Go over. Yeah, and I think it can happen in an unexpected moment where you think, it can be a teacher, it can be a book, it can be a recording you happen upon, whatever. And it's like, that person's voice, that technique, and that's kind of the stepping stone into, I find that for different practices, I prefer different voices, even male, female. So it can be very subtle, subtle nuances can make a big difference.
Yeah, I'm the same.
How about you?
Yeah, I have the same one that I listen to when I go to sleep. And I never get past 3 minutes. And my husband always laughs at me because he knows it by heart, but I don't know the end of it because I always just fall asleep.
This is so funny. Do you know the Calm app? There are sleep stories on there, and one of those is read by Stephen Fry, and it's a story in Provence, and it's, oh my god, and Provence is my favorite place in the world. Anyway, so for the last couple of years, I would be gone within, like yourself, a few minutes, gone. Recently, I was in the Middle East on an essential working trip, I would say. And because of the time difference, and I was a little bit nervous about the next day, and because there was a lot riding on the success of the workshops, I couldn't sleep, or I couldn't get to sleep. So I listened to that story, and oh my god, I listened to it right until the end. 2 times in a row, because I have learned through mindfulness practice to sustain my attention. Because when I do a body scan, for example, because as part of the uni coursework, we have to practice 45 minutes every day. It's non-negotiable, and we alternate a body scan with the sitting practice and other practices. And initially, the body scan, 3 minutes, boom, you're gone, you're under.
Yeah.
But now I can do it with the full 45 minutes, staying awake. So when I listen to a sleep story, I also stay awake. So it's like, so yeah, I had a direct experience of noticing how far I'd come along the line, along the mindfulness line.
Well, that's an important point, isn't it? That it's a continuous process.
Oh God, yeah.
It's not suddenly, we're not going to arrive somewhere. This isn't something that you achieve. This isn't something, boom, you can do it and it's all perfect. This is a continuous journey, as you said.
Because every moment is new. Every moment is new. And yeah, it's exciting because that's what keeps it fresh. Like currently I'm doing the like a master's course in mindfulness. Even after 4 years, it will be the next step on the journey, because then there will be something new to explore, and then something new after that. And that's so beautiful, because that's the invitation of mindfulness. Focus on this moment and this moment alone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a joy. What a joy. Amazing. So we've got some great comments here. I've been meditating for years and it has taken years to find out what works for me. Some people really relating to the breathing and the body and the running. Brilliant. Christoph, where can people connect with you? How can people find you? Where's the best to go? Just let us know.
So christophspiessens.com, the website, is a good place to start. LinkedIn is great as well. Bi-weekly, Sunday evenings, 7:30 UK time, I host my Calm with Christoph sessions. These are 30-minute meditation sessions, and you can get a ticket on Eventbrite. It's only a $5. If you want to join at 7:15, I give a 15-minute talk on something related to mindfulness, and then it's the same Zoom link, and then people join for the meditation practice afterwards. And all the other social media channels. Yeah.
Amazing.
But I'm going to say something very woo-woo. Where you can find me, probably the easiest, is when you take a moment to sit. Just sit down, even if it is 1 minute. 1 minute. And then just, you can tune into this conversation today, into Jay's energy, into my energy, our collectively created energy. Just think back to this moment. Use it as the red carpet into your moment. And it doesn't have to become a fully fledged meditation. I've been doing it for years. I don't know how to meditate because there's no script. But roll out the red carpet, sit down, lie down, just stand up, whatever. And just be in that moment, and notice how within seconds, I kid you not, your mind will be somewhere else. And then say, oh, whoopsie, thank you, but no, that's not where, no, we need to stay here. And the more you do that, the more it will fight, because it'll like, no, we need to be worrying about something, because that's what you do. You're a warrior. Or you reminisce. No, but thank you, mind, and we've got this, and I appreciate you looking out for me, and I really love you for scanning for all the dangers all day long, but I've got this. This is my moment. Just give me 1 minute, and then you create new neural pathways based on that experience. And then the next time the brain thinks, okay, I know what he or she is doing here. And we didn't die last time, so maybe we can try this again. And maybe we can, 1 minute can become 2 minutes. And that's how you do it. Little bits. And before you know it, you can practice, you can sustain that attention for longer periods of time.
Amazing, Christoph. Oh, it has been such a joy for me speaking to you. I know it has been everyone else. Thank you so much for joining us this evening.
And there are 28 free meditations available on my Insight Timer app teacher profile. That's maybe a good resource to go to. And they're between 3 and 25 minutes in length. So there's a good choice. But thank you, Jay, and thank you for the work that you do, and thank you for the light that you are. I mean that genuinely. Yeah, it's much needed. So thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you, and thank you all for joining us. We've got some thank yous coming through, so thank you all. Yeah. Good night and take care.
Good night, everyone.